Hey everyone, before this video begins, I want to say one thing. Oh geez. So, last week's video got taken down by YouTube, and the reason is because apparently it was hate speech to YouTube's policies, which is really weird, you know? I appealed, but they didn't allow it. So that's why, in case you check, the video isn't there. It was an Elijah and Elijah video, and it was a really fun video. I enjoyed making it. I didn't say anything hateful or violent, not even satirically. It was an obviously satirical video anyways. Kind of makes me scared to make more Elijah and Elijah videos, because what if I say something wrong? Kind of ironic, the title and the subject, but I digress. On with the video. When I was really young, way back in elementary school, me and my best friend at the time, we'll call him D, were at the bus stop, ready to go to school. We were really early, and my friend was talking about how he sometimes walks to school. I was really intrigued by that, because I barely ventured outside my usual neighborhood, and I wanted to know how he did it. He agreed to show me, and we ended up leaving the bus stop and started walking all the way to school. It wasn't too far, the school was only a mile away. D said he walked there several times to school, so I trusted that he knew the route. Turns out the route wasn't that hard to remember. It was literally a straight line all the way. No turns at all. When we got to school, I wanted to walk more often with D, and he suggested that we get up early and walk the next day. Well, the next day I got up early, but D wasn't there. I waited a good long while, but still no sign of him. I decided, fuck it, and went off. I went down the same road and started my journey. Now, here's something you should know about me. I'm very paranoid, and I basically overdo everything. I always think 3 times, 4 times, even 5 times before I do something. I knew it was the same road me and D went down on because it was literally the only road to go down on. Well, after a while of walking, I started doubting myself. I started getting really scared that I went down the wrong road. Now, this is obviously impossible because there was only one road near the bus stop, so I was just being overly paranoid. Halfway through the walk, I prayed to God. Yes, that's right. I prayed to God and wished for this way to be the correct way. After I prayed, I continued walking. Well, wouldn't you know it, but I was walking the correct way. I thank God for his help and never walked to school again. Now, back in elementary school, this strengthened my faith in God, and more miraculous stories like that happened throughout my life, which eventually led me to pursue Christianity. Nowadays, this story is absolutely stupid. For one, I had a friend who guided me my first time. 2, it was literally a straight line. 3, it was the only street near our bus stop. 4, I was obviously being overly paranoid. And 5, me praying had no effect on the outcome because I was already walking the correct way. Maybe God knew all along. Maybe he knew I would be scared to continue my walk, and he made it so there was only one road with a straight path all the way to the school I was going at. Or maybe it was a coincidence that I prayed and went the correct way. There's really no way of proving that God did all that for me anyways, and even if he did, that would mean his plan was to give me all these miracles to prove his existence, and then suddenly turn me into an atheist. What an odd plan. The fact of the matter is, coincidences are all over the place. Without meeting a certain person, I would have never met this other person, and vice versa. The only way it becomes an intervention of something greater is when we attribute it to something greater, whether it be fate, God, or some other higher power. If miracles can easily be described as coincidences, why even call it a miracle? There are plenty of strange coincidences that I've been a part of when I was young that I never even attributed to God, because they didn't seem that important in my life. I mean, what are the odds that I would meet D, of all people? They are pretty significantly small. What are the odds that I would be living in the place that I currently am living in? Again, the odds of that are very small. What a coincidence that my parents decided to move at the correct time to the correct house and let me go to the correct bus stop D was on. What a coincidence that I met D on that bus in the correct seat. Once we start realizing that our entire lives are kind of already made up of coincidences, any coincidence significant to us suddenly becomes like the rest of them, and we don't give a second thought to him. Now, people will argue that God has a plan, and that all these coincidences are all a part of that plan. There's no way of proving this. It's so odd to me when people come to this conclusion, because asking the question, what's your proof, completely demolishes the point. How can you prove that God has a plan for every single human being on Earth? Simply declaring that God has a plan is not an argument. I could also say that my cock has a plan for everyone. There's no way of proving whether this is true or not because there's no evidence to support it and there's no evidence against it. You can't prove my cock doesn't have a plan for everyone. If the proof of the existence of God's plan is just as good as the proof that my cock has a plan, there's something seriously wrong with this idea. Now, let's just say, for argument's sake, that coincidences really do have meanings behind them. Let's say that coincidences are miracles. If that's the case, what about the coincidences that disprove God? Let me give you an example. My friends were at a hotel and I sadly wasn't there. And they were trying to roll a few joints, but they didn't have any rolling papers. They started searching for something to roll with. Suddenly, one of my friends opens a drawer and pulls out the Bible. That's right, everyone. What are the odds that my friend got their medical card not too long ago, decided to go to a hotel room instead of just going to one of their houses, and that Bible pages make good rolling paper? Does that mean it's a miracle? Why did God allow all of these coincidences in His plan? It's completely blasphemous, but if coincidences really have meanings behind them, does that mean that these coincidences disprove God's existence? Some may argue, no, it does not. Those were merely coincidences. Not all coincidences are miracles. If that's the case, how can we tell which ones are miracles? How can we know which ones have meanings behind them? Yeah, there is no way of telling. If we can just say whether something is just a coincidence or actually has meaning behind it without any way of verifying either or, then they just become absolutely meaningless. When we do this, we start placing meaning on things that have no meaning, while at the same time never knowing what the meaning behind things actually are when we dismiss them as mere coincidence. Does divine intervention happen? Maybe. There's no way of really knowing, as there's no proof that God, or anything for that matter, intervenes with our everyday lives. All these coincidences we don't take into consideration are just coincidences, and so are the coincidences we give meaning to. There is no proof that the meanings behind our coincidences, big or small, actually have that meaning we give it. There is no proof that God, or anything else for that matter, has a plan for us. Okay, well, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like if you did. Link in the description down below to Patreon if you want to support the channel. And again, sorry last week's video got taken down. There was really nothing I could do about it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Bye-bye.